Hello, I'm Daniela, and welcome to Stitch the Season 2022. In previous videos, I've explained how we're going to create this fabric book for this workshop, and all the videos will be linked below. I showed you how I found little treasures to incorporate into my book. And then we did the first prompt, which was snowman. Today's video is for the second prompt, and that is drink. Make a drink in your book that really means something to you, something that's personal. You can include the recipe for the drink if it's the case, or you can include some ephemera. Perhaps you buy the drink at Starbucks or some coffee shop and you have their little coffee sleeve. You can create coffee, tea, Christmas punch, a cocktail, whatever floats your boat. You want to add this to your journal. And like all the pages, I'll show you how I create my prompt. And then I like to add text to each of the pages. I just like the way that looks. So I can't wait to show you my process. Now the second prompt that I did in the prototype book here was for drink. And so I made a to-go cup of cocoa. And I have this cute little accessory here, which I'll show you how to do today, just to make a little dimensional candy to go with your hot cocoa. Now for this one, I have a little coffee sleeve, a little focal point, and the little hole in the to-go cup here, the lid, was a heart. So it has a few whimsical elements as well. For today's prompt though, I'm going to take out my book and decide where to put it. Now the last one I did was on the last page, so I think it's only fitting that this prompt, our second one, be on the first page. So that's where I'm going to put it. Instead of making a to-go cup, I want to make a nice warm mug of hot cocoa, complete with marshmallows and a peppermint stick, and then that little piece of candy. So I decided I wanted my background to be a darker fabric, just with a pattern. So I'm using some of this checkered fabric that we used in our last prompt, and this will coordinate nicely. It was the hat from the snowman, and now it's going to be my background. I have some red fabric that I'm going to use for the mug, and this little cute fabric that's red and off-white that I'll use for the wrapper for that candy. And for that candy, I'm going to need a button to fill it to give it a little dimension. We'll do that at the end. I have a little felted candy cane here. I could use a Chanel stem or a couple of them, but I just think that's a really cute textile touch. And then I have some pom-poms that I'll use as my marshmallows. At least that's my plan. I might change that as I go. I also have this piece of quilted fabric left over from cutting out the book, and I'm using this to give a little dimension to my mug. So the first thing I want to do is create that mug. I'm taking this fabric, and this is all going to be hidden with this red fabric. So I'm just going to sketch right here the mug that I want, the shape. I think I just want a standard mug. Maybe I'll move it over a little bit. With a rounded top. And then I want that handle. Maybe just a little lower than the top. Comes up. And that little hole there. So that's going to be my mug. I'll cut this out and then I'll transfer it to my mug color fabric. So there I have my mug shape, and I could fine tune it a little more as well. Just trim this handle down. So that's the look I was going for. So now I want to take my fabric and I want it to be a little larger. And I want it to be a little bit larger than the actual base fabric here. So I'll just set it down and trace around it rather nicely. So I'll take a moment to just get that better image than I would normally do. I want to make sure I get that handle and inside that handle. And now I'll cut that out. So there I have my mug. I'll just make sure it fits. I'll make sure it fits just over the quilted part, and I just have to trim that quilted part a little bit more, particularly on the handle. So it's really just trial and error, just to see how it will work nicely. That works really well. I'll pin it in place, pinning through all the fabrics, including that quilted fabric, this fabric, and my book. I like to do a few pins here just because I don't want that quilted fabric to move. And now I'll take some red thread and I'm going to stitch around the perimeter as well as making that little lip here at the top of it. And instead of stitching down the straight perimeter of the mug, I'm just going to stitch down over here where it meets the mug, leaving this little area and this little area unstitched. So I've stitched down my mug just around the outline where I wanted, and so now I have the basis for my design. I have my little felt candy cane that I wanted to be a coffee stirrer, but it's a little long. So I'm going to cut it down to size, but because of the way this is made, this red ribbon will probably unwind. So I'm just going to keep that in mind. I'll make my mark where I want to cut it down, just about here. And now I can either add a little dab of glue, or I can take some red ribbon that I have here and stitch it into place by going over that area that's already stitched down. So basically I'm recouching it. I'm going to start up here and follow that path going over those stripes. This will not only hold it into place, but it'll prevent it, if it comes undone, it will still be striped. As you can see, it's starting to come undone already. So I can just take that piece that's coming undone and give it a little snip. I'll go over it again. And I'll continue to add the stripe as I go. And I can pull that down to where I want it to be, coming right out of that cup of hot cocoa. Now I can re-stitch it so that it restripes the candy cane and holds it down in position. So I'll go over all these stripes with my embroidery floss. So if you're going to use a found object and you're going to do any alteration to it, just take a really good look at it and see what potential pitfalls you could come across. It's still worth doing. It just gives a different result. And it's just a little more work. So now I can decide if I want to add some marshmallows, and I kind of like the way that looks. I can just add like maybe 3 marshmallows to the top of my cocoa. Now I've tried cutting these in half, and because they're pom-poms, they just came undone. So I'm just going to stitch over them, again couching them into place, and I'm just going to use some white thread to hold them in place. Before I do that though, I want to show you how I make my little candy that I'm going to put over here. So now to make my candy, I'm going to take my button, and I take a little scrap of fabric, and I like the way these colors go with this piece. I'm going to place my button inside, and the scrap is at least 3 to 4 times taller than the button. And I'm just going to wrap my button right in the center of that scrap. I'll take the seam side down and put it on the back of that fold here. I'll put it on the back of the button, and I'm still holding it in place. I'm going to reach in here with my thread that's knotted, and then I'm going to slide that button down to the knot. I'll twist my fabric one time, and then I'm just going to stitch through that little twist. And I'll do this a couple of times. This is anchoring the button in place. Now currently the button is still moving around. So if you're doing this, don't worry if the button's not secure yet. That's totally normal. So now I have a few stitches to anchor that button in place. The button will still move and the fabric can still come undone, but it's just a little more secure. So now I'm going to hold it in place with my thread coming out, and I'll wrap it 3 or 4 times around until I get that look that I'm going for. And then I'm going to stitch through my wrapping just on that one side, and then on the back I'll make a knot. Now keep in mind your button is still mobile at this point. It's not secure. Trim off my thread, again leaving the knot on the back. So now I'll re-knot the end of my thread to prepare it for finishing this little candy treat. So now I'll secure this fabric the way I want it to look, bring my thread up inside this fabric really close to the button. It doesn't have to be exact, but fairly close, and that hides my knot. I'm going to turn this fabric the way I want it to look, put the string behind and hold that with my hand, and then twist my fabric just one time. Again, I'll repeat that same procedure. I'll come up with my thread and make a few stitches. This kind of is a beginning secure way to get this candy to look right. Then I'll just twist it accordingly and then wrap my thread again. Again, 4 or 5 times, whatever look I want to go for. I'll take my thread and my needle and stitch either through that fabric or right next to it through the fabric. And then I'll just play around with making sure that I have that in the right position. I can slide that wrap down just a little bit to secure it closer to that button so it looks like a little piece of wrapped candy. And then I'll just make a couple of stitches. I want my thread to come out on the back, and then I'll knot it. And there I have a wrapped candy. From here, I'll play around with that button, and then I just like to cut the edge of my candy, and I like to give it just a little bit of an arc. And so there I have my wrapped candy, and I can attach it to my cup somewhere. So I'm going to attach my little pom-poms. I'll attach my candy, and then I want to think about what I want to write on the cup. I'll show you this when it's attached, and then come back. So I've attached my candy and my marshmallows, and now I just want to finish up my piece. I'm going to stitch around the perimeter here just with some black thread, and that will tack down the background. I want to think of a word to stitch, and I can refer back to my download here that has a bunch of words, but I'm thinking something like drink or toasty or something. I'll give it some thought. And I have this little felt snowflake, and I'm thinking of adding it to the mug to make it look like a part of the mug. Maybe I'll stitch some red lines on the inside. So I'll work on that for a little bit and then show you how that looks. So I've stitched around my page, added the word. I decided on warmth. I was looking for different words for cocoa, hot chocolate, and I just thought, well, you know, it's the feeling of warmth I'm trying to convey. So I have that there, plus the little sweet treats. Again, I'm sticking to my color scheme, which is kind of unusual for me. I tend to venture out. But between these 2 pages, it's going well so far. So that's how I create my page based on the Christmas prompt, drink. I have 2 pages done in my journal, and I'm really enjoying this process. If you participate in this journal and like me to take a look at your work, snap a photo of it and you can email it to me, or on Instagram tag me, or use the hashtag StitchTheSeason2022. That way we can create a community where we can support each other in the work that we do with kind comments and hearts and all that stuff that goes along with the Instagram. If you have found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining me today.